It's 8 o'clock. This is the UK Tonight. Coming up, a special report from Britain's asylum capital. Glasgow takes in more asylum seekers than any other city, but its leaders say they are struggling to deal with demand and cost. And now the mood among residents appears to be shifting.
It looks like they're going to overspill us. We'll be the underdogs.
Who's they?
All them ones that's coming in, especially Muslims.
Also tonight, absolutely betrayed by the justice system. I speak to the mother of Kennedy Westcar Sabarosh, who was killed by her partner last year. He was given a hospital order after pleading guilty to manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility. And Kennedy's family believe justice has not been served. Plus, Sir Keir Starmer on a collision course with Nigel Farage, the Prime Minister telling the Labour conference that the Reform leader doesn't like Britain. Mr Farage says the PM is unfit to lead the country. And Boyzone are back. We'll speak to the band as they announce plans to reunite for their biggest show ever. Well, that's come. Much more on the UK Tonight. Glasgow takes in more asylum seekers than any other city in the UK. It all began in 1999 when the city signed up to the government's dispersal system, which saw illegal immigrants relocated from south-east England in exchange for cash. Well, now costs have ballooned, and in a place where the issue hasn't traditionally dominated the conversation, attitudes appear to be changing. Our Scotland correspondent Connor Gillis has this special report.
Come into this country and you get a house and a bother. And I know people say they don't, but they do.
Glasgow is Britain's asylum seeker capital.
They're not allowed to claim benefits. They're not stealing your jobs.
But as numbers rise...
I passed many countries before I came here. I came by boat.
And services are under strain.
Is there a kind of anti-immigration part of it?
I don't want them here.
Where are they going to live?
What's your evidence for that?
I don't have any evidence.
Are attitudes here changing? The slogan for a city that carries the weight of Britain's asylum system. More people housed here in Glasgow than anywhere else. But for a place celebrated for its welcome, the strain is showing.
What is it you're angry about?
For most, the Scottish saltire is a symbol of compassion in a nation long seen as left-leaning.
Too many people coming in.
For others, a protest, a way to voice disquiet.
I'm proud to be Scottish. Know what I mean? And
Is there a kind of anti-immigration part of it?
I don't want them here.
Do you think that some people will think what you're saying is racist?
Probably, aye.
Do you care?
No.
Are you racist?
No.
It's actually went out of control. There are far too many coming in.
Up the road in a wealthy suburb, this 84-year-old woman asked us not to show her face.
It looks like they're going to overspill us. We'll be the underdogs.
Who's they?
All them ones that's coming in, especially Muslims.
Right. Do you think that's racist?
No, it's just truth. Where they're a minority, they will be majority in future years.
What's your evidence for that?
I don't have any evidence.
There's too many immigrants in this area.
Mum Audrey blames her struggles on immigration too.
I've got an older son who lives with me. Can't get a house, but yet you come into this country and you get a house and a bother. And I know people say they don't, but they do. There's more black in every other colour than there is white. That sounds terrible, doesn't it?
I suppose the opposing view to that is, look, it's a multicultural society. Things are very different than they were years ago, and many people would welcome that.
But we don't have the infrastructure for it.
Unlike in the rest of Britain, immigration traditionally hasn't been a big topic on the minds of Scottish voters. In fact, very many people have seen immigration as a positive thing, given the tourism industry here relies so heavily on people coming to work. And for the majority of Scots, the cost of living and healthcare remain the priority. However, recent polling has suggested a rise in concern around the topic of immigration. Couple in to the fact Nigel Farage and Reform seem to be on the rise north of the border, and it begins to feel like immigration is now playing a bigger part in the national conversation than it has done for very many years.
What is the talk in the office?
The usual sort of topics of conversation, like at any office workplace, would be, Love Island, what's on TV, what are folk watching? But certainly in the past 6 months, there's been a lot of chat about immigration. People move away. We need people who are going to move in as well. And, even sort of 30 plus years ago, I went to a fairly diverse school, and I think the more kids are exposed to folk from different cultures, the better.
You're pro-immigration?
I am pro-immigration.
And for lawyers, misinformation is hijacking the debate.
They're not allowed to work. They're not allowed to claim benefits. They're not stealing your jobs. They're not taking our benefits. If they're in a hotel, which they don't want to be in, they're on £9 a week. If they're in the community, they're on £6 a day. It's simply not true, that narrative that's put out. The issue's been used as a scapegoat by various political actors. It's predicated on immigration or higher levels of immigration being the reason why standard of living is dropping, the reason why public services are suffering, which is simply not the case.
Glasgow's roots in this stretch back 25 years. The council signed up to welcome asylum seekers in return for UK government funding, a system known as dispersal.
This was introduced to move large numbers of people from the southeast of England and from London area to different cities across the UK. I think there were maybe 7 dispersal sites. Glasgow is the only one in Scotland, was because I think it had at the time a large estate of available housing, and this would be high-rise housing. Many of those high-rise flats have now been demolished as part of a bigger urban regeneration programme. And what that does is it means that we still have housing issues for people. Where are they going to live?
And it's housing that is now at the centre of this crisis. When asylum seekers are allowed to permanently stay, councils take responsibility. Glasgow says that is now its #1 single cost, with leaders demanding a temporary pause to catch up with demand. The homelessness laws here in Scotland say councils must house someone without a home, and that includes refugees who've been given the right to stay. It's far more generous than in England, where they usually only have to house someone with a priority need. And that, it's claimed, is drawing people to communities like this one and adding to an already pressured environment.
Hello, Rue Britannia, get it right, Robbie.
Less than 30 miles away in Falkirk, this hotel has become the centre of protest. Fury from some who seized on the rape of a teenage girl by a man living here who'd entered the UK illegally.
I passed many countries before I came here, so I was in Europe before here, but I came by boat last year.
It's left others, like this man from Iraq, being tarred with the same brush.
I'm scared. I'm not coming in the day to the hotel.
Do you understand why some people in this country are angry about the situation?
There is the good people and bad people.
He reveals he was living in Europe for a decade before coming across the channel.
About 10 years I've been in Europe. Why the UK? Because I couldn't stay anymore in Europe.
Why not?
Because they deporting people to their country. I've been living in Germany for a long time.
The criticism from some is that people arriving into this country on small boats like yourself are all men in their 20s and 30s, and there are very few women and children.
You want to come here, it's not easy for family. You have to cross the water. That's why they don't bring the family.
As tensions rise here, a brick was thrown, smashing a window in the middle of the night in what is being called an act of intimidation. Police are investigating, and Scotland's First Minister has branded it absolutely despicable. It is the first physical sign that things here are escalating.
So many of us turned up to the first protest at the Cladden a few weeks ago, and we were expecting a very lively protest, but we were shocked at the level of abuse and racism being thrown out there. We wanted to create a group that was for residents of Falkirk to reject that narrative that asylum seekers are making this an unsafe place to live.
What is important is we are all human beings. So you may have your own reasons for doing what you are doing, but I think let's just live peacefully and so forth.
And this man from West Africa is also waiting to see if he can stay in the UK.
You cannot put everybody in one category, classifying everybody as racist and stuff like that. What I know is people have valid reasons. That's it. But what is important is not everybody in the hotel is bad. That's it. People, some of them, if you listen to what they went through, you will sympathize with them.
The Home Office says it's easing the pressure, shifting people out of these hotels and processing claims faster. But as the costs mount and tempers for some rise, the politics of welcome are being tested like never before.
The Prime Minister has set himself on a collision course with Nigel Farage today, telling the Labour conference that the Reform leader doesn't believe in Britain. Sir Keir Starmer said the country is at a fork in the road and he wants a tolerant, decent, respectful Britain, whereas Mr Farage wants to talk the country down. The Reform leader issued a furious response, saying the Prime Minister is not fit to lead. Our political editor, Beth Rigby, has this report from Liverpool.
Applause for this Prime Minister rare these days.
Your Prime Minister, Mr Keir Starmer.
This a dark period as Keir Starmer battles his party and struggles in the polls. This speech then, the beginning of the fight back.
The country faces a choice, a defining choice. Britain stands at a fork in the road. We can choose decency or we can choose division, renewal or decline. It is a test, a fight for the soul of our country.
This a rallying call from a Prime Minister launching a battle against Nigel Farage and Reform UK, pitching Labour as the party of patriotic renewal and Reform as the party of decline.
Patriotism is about love and pride, about serving an interest that is more than yourself, a common good. And the question I ask seriously of Nigel Farage and Reform is, do they love our country? Do they want to serve our country, all of it, our beautiful, tolerant, diverse country, every region, nation and city? Or do they just want to stir the pot of division because that works in their interests?
The PM choosing his path, but warning about the journey ahead.
The path of renewal, it's long, it's difficult, it requires decisions that are not cost-free or easy. Decisions that will not always be comfortable for our party. Yet at the end of this hard road, there will be a new country.
Keir Starmer 14 months into the job, but with a speech that felt like the start of a new campaign, repitching to the public by talking up some of his past achievements.
I make no apologies if they tilt towards working people, because it's working people who paid the price of Tory decline. That's why we invested in our NHS, fired up Great British Energy, stood up for British Steel.
This crowd in need of a pick-me-up, and he delivered.
A mark of a Britain built for all. Thank you, Conference.
And in a speech heavy on politics, there was new policy too. Keir Starmer scrapping Tony Blair's new Labour target that half of all young people should go to university.
I don't think that's right for our times. So, Conference, today I can announce we will scrap that target and replace it with a new ambition that 2/3 of our children should go either to university or take a gold standard apprenticeship.
This speech heavy on symbols too.
I'm not just proud of the Union Jack and the Cross of St George, I'm also proud of the Saltire, of the Red Dragon, proud of our union. So let's fly all our flags, Conference, because they're our flags. They belong to all of us, and we will never surrender them.
Reclaiming the flag and calling out the racists seeking to divide this country.
Yet if they're painted alongside graffiti, telling a Chinese takeaway owner to go home, that's not pride, that's racism. If you say they should now be deported, then mark my words, we will fight you with everything we have, because you are the enemy of national renewal. We will renew this country until we can say with total conviction that Britain is built for all. Thank you, conference. Thank you.
This a Prime Minister on the ropes, but he's come out fighting today, not just for his own job, but for what he describes as the soul of the nation. With reform racing away, Starmer's trying to convince his party and the public to keep the faith. He's asking you to pick a side, and he's asking you to pick him. You're giving it a bit of punch now, aren't you?
Is it a bit of welly, Beth?
You're giving it a bit of welly. Is it because
what we believe in?
Is it because you feel like you're the underdogs after this sort of difficult 14 months?
I enjoy fighting for what I believe in. I know what I believe in, and Keir knows what he believes in. I wouldn't say anyone else had a plan. And what Keir and I have set out in our conference speeches in the last couple of days is our belief in Britain.
Do you think Nigel Farage is a racist?
Well, look, I think actually what Nigel Farage was saying is worse than racism. I think it's immoral. I think that is an extreme policy, and what he was deliberately doing was sending a signal, a dog whistle to every racist in the country.
There's still opposition to him in the party, isn't there? Do you think he's put it to bed?
I just don't think that's a thing. I think we've seen this...
Well, it is a thing.
I think, I don't think that sideshow really matters. What matters here is what we've just heard on the main stage from the Prime Minister, from the leader of our country.
Keir Starmer won the hall, giving him and these Labour members a much-needed lift in these heavy political times. He's gambling that his patriotic pitch of renewal will revive his and Labour's fortunes, but it is a very, very long road ahead. Beth Rigby, Sky News, Liverpool.
Well, a positive reception for the Prime Minister and his speech today at party conference. Hopes he'll have won over his critics, as Beth Rigby was saying. I'm joined now by Chief Political Correspondent John Craig in Westminster. However, John, the Prime Minister has infuriated one of his biggest critics today in the shape of Nigel Farage.
There was an awful lot in the Prime Minister's speech about Reform UK and about Mr Farage. One or two people thought he rather overdid it, but the majority really thought that he was right to take the fight to Reform UK, given that they've got a big lead in the opinion polls at the moment. And most people here, in fact, all his supporters, really love the fact that he took the gloves off, really, and really started to give Reform UK a battering, used tough words like racism and so on, he didn't pull his punches at all, to use a boxing metaphor. But within minutes, the Reform UK leader had reacted angrily to the speech by the Prime Minister.
I used to think the Prime Minister was a decent man, somebody that I could talk to and chat to. We might disagree on worldview, but I thought he was a profoundly decent human being. I am completely shocked at his behaviour. I hope when he wakes up tomorrow morning, he feels ashamed of what he has done. This is a desperate last throw of the dice from a Prime Minister who's in deep trouble, a Prime Minister who can't even command the support of half of his own party. But I'm sorry to say, I now believe that he is unfit to be the Prime Minister of our country.
Well, note the size of Nigel Farage's flags behind him there. Enormous they were. The Labour High Command, of course, will probably be quite pleased that they've riled Mr Farage. Clearly, they will feel that the message has hit home. But there are problems ahead, obviously, for the Prime Minister. You talk to people around the fringes here, you get a lot of complaints from Labour MPs, Labour activists, that the government's still moving too slowly to fulfil its promise of change that was on the front of the manifesto last year. Now, that passage we saw in Beth's report where he rattled off a lot of Labour achievements, they absolutely loved that. But, of course, in the months ahead, and the budget, of course, is crucial, 26th of November for that, and there have been hints this week that there will be tax rises, although there are suggestions that there'll be a sweetener for the party and for Labour supporters with the axing of the two-child benefit cap. There are some tough months ahead. Now, they will leave here cheered up by that speech by the Prime Minister. There was a consensus that it's probably one of his best speeches since he became Labour leader. Some were even comparing it to Neil Kinnock taking on the militant tendency, Liverpool's militant tendency, of course, 40 years ago this week. That was another punchy speech with a Labour leader taking on his enemies. Well, the Prime Minister certainly came out fighting, but he really is in a fight now with Mr Farage.
John, thank you, John Craig in Liverpool for us tonight. So has come here on the programme. I speak to a mother who feels betrayed by the justice system after the man who killed her daughter was given a hospital order.
I witnessed the complete destruction of a place linked to my childhood memories.
This is insane.
I'm Yusra Al-Bagher, Sky's Africa correspondent based in Johannesburg, South Africa. I felt awe when we saw the mountain gorillas in Rwanda.
We call him the king of the jungle. This is the alpha silverback.
Sky News, get the full story first.
The mother of a woman killed by her boyfriend says she feels completely betrayed by the justice system. 25-year-old Kennedy Westcar Sabarosh was strangled by her partner in East London in April last year. Gogoa Lois Tape was initially charged with murder, but prosecutors then accepted a guilty plea to manslaughter due to diminished responsibility. And Kennedy's family believe justice has not been served. I've been speaking to Kennedy's mum, Linda Westcar, and I asked her about Kennedy's relationship with the man who killed her.
They met in college, they were young, and he was a couple of years older than Kennedy, and they had a long 9-year relationship, but as part of that relationship, it felt that he was coercive towards Kennedy, but without her knowledge of it. There were times where things were good. It seemed to change When Kennedy had her daughter, I feel that her partner at the time, the perpetrator, felt she had changed and was not giving him the attention that he craved. And I feel that he was quite obsessed with Kennedy. And I think this led into the controlling, coercive behaviours. And it was little things that I picked up on along the way.
Can you talk to me about what happened to your daughter?
I can. On that day, they talked. He phoned her endlessly on the day, FaceTimed her. They were laughing and joking, talking to each other on and off throughout the day, into the evening. And then around 8:30, he called her again and asked her to come and meet him. And she picked him up in the car. They drove around. What we know is that the car, which was down an alleyway, he got out of the passenger side. He then left the vehicle and walked back to a grassed area, and he got an object and returned to the car, and he lunged at her and strangled her for 8 minutes. He used a knife to attack Kennedy. And within that 8 minutes, she lost her life.
He was then arrested and you expected a murder charge, but instead, what happened?
Yes, you're right. We expected a murder charge and he was charged with murder in the beginning as the police led the investigation. But months after that, CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, took a plea, decided to accept his plea to manslaughter based on diminished responsibility. And the case took a turn at that point. The coercive controlling behaviour had not been picked up on and not been looked into. We met with CPS and they told us they had accepted that plea and they were no longer going for a murder charge, so there wouldn't then be a trial. It was absolutely devastating to hear that, firstly, that a plea had been accepted. We hadn't been consulted, firstly, as a family, about the plea and what the possibilities of that plea would or could be. We were told when the decision had already been made by CPS. So we were totally devastated about not having a trial, not being able to face him in court, not being able to speak Kennedy's truth, what happened to her.
Your daughter's killer was given a hospital order because the grounds of diminished responsibility were based on the fact that he was found to have undiagnosed schizophrenia. This raises a lot of questions for you. You've asked for an urgent review of this sentence on the grounds of undue leniency because a hospital order, while he may never leave hospital, and that is the sense that you're given, if he's deemed fit and well, he could one day leave hospital. And you want to see a change in the law, don't you? Explain to us what you want to see.
I think in our case, there were a number of disposals that could have been considered. And I think the hybrid order, which is an order which sees people who have a need to go to hospital, to have some time in hospital, be treated for that, and then when well enough, serve time in prison. And there's the hospital order. For me, the question to the Prime Minister is, if somebody who has a need to go to hospital, who has committed a crime and should also be punished, is able to bypass a hybrid order, then my question is, who meets the criteria for that?
We have written to the Prime Minister asking for an urgent meeting about this. Have you had a response yet?
I haven't had a response. We wrote to the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, on the 6th of September, but we haven't had a response from his office as yet. I want to be able to say to him that we need to listen to victims, survivors. We need to change the laws that will protect violence against women and girls, and it's just not good enough to just have lip service. We absolutely need to change this, and it cannot wait. The sentencing bill, they're all too far away. And I just want the public to recognise and realise what actually does go on in cases like this, where we feel that a crime is committed and the obvious thing would be maybe a trial and a judge and jury decides what happens. And I'm here to tell that story that isn't quite like how it happens.
What's happened to your family has strong parallels with the Nottingham attacks. And I know that Emma Webber, the mother of Barnaby Webber, who was killed in that attack, has reached out to you because, of course, the man who killed her son got a hospital order as well. She's fighting the same battle that you and your family and so many others, no doubt, are fighting too.
Absolutely, and we welcome and we thank Emma Webber, and I know that there's lots of families, as you just rightly said, and we want to be able to come together to fight that together, because I feel that our voices would be stronger together. We will move this into the direction that it needs to be, and to change the law going forward for others, may not be necessarily for our loved ones, but for others that unfortunately may come up against this.
Well, a huge thank you to Linda for talking to us at a very difficult interview for her to do, but such an important one that her and her family wanted to put across Kennedy's case and the challenge that's facing their family. We've put Kennedy's case to the government and also to the Crown Prosecution Service. This is the response from the CPS this evening. We accepted pleas of manslaughter by diminished responsibility against Guggoa Tate only after having carefully reviewed medical evidence from experts who agreed he was substantially impaired by delusions arising from schizophrenia. Nonetheless, Tate remains criminally responsible for his actions, regardless of the impact of his mental health on his culpability for this awful crime. Members of our prosecution team personally met with Ms. Westcar Sabarosh's family several times to explain our decision-making, and we will continue to be available to assist them. Meanwhile, a government spokesperson said we are committed to halving violence against women and girls in a decade, building a justice system that fundamentally reduces offending, supports victims of these crimes and gets justice for families. Well, the family's fight for justice has been dealt a fresh blow tonight. Linda and her family receiving this news earlier on. The Solicitor General telling them that Kennedy's killer sentence will not be referred to the unduly lenient scheme. In her letter to the family, Ellie Reeves MP told them that her killer's actions were appalling and no sentence can undo his criminal acts, but she said judges had followed the sentencing guidelines correctly and the Court of Appeal would be unlikely to increase the sentence. We will continue to follow this case here on the UK Tonight. Child safety groups have welcomed a clarification from the government that child abuse victims will be included in its strategy for tackling violence against women and girls. It follows a report from Sky's Molly Malone, which revealed a draft Home Office document that said child sexual abuse and exploitation was not explicitly within the scope of the strategy. Molly reports now on this update from the Home Office.
Children are once again being left in the air with no one advocating for them at the moment.
Last month, we told Poppy's story. She was sexually abused and raped by her grandfather when she was 4 years old.
VAWG is violence against women and girls. If you take child sexual abuse out of it, where are the girls?
And that was her reaction after Sky News revealed this internal Home Office document. It's titled Draft Definition of VAWG, that's violence against women and girls. It then says child sexual abuse and exploitation is not explicitly within the scope of their strategy. Poppy's concerns were later echoed as 10 child protection organisations wrote to the government expressing concern.
There has been some reporting that it would not include child abuse victims.
And now, Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips has responded, writing in a letter, "Let me be clear that children who experience sexual abuse and exploitation are considered in the new Violence Against Women and Girls strategy as we take concrete actions to tackle these crimes." She went on to say, "I hope the above clarifies the government's position."
We're hopeful that the words in the Minister's letter show that they are thinking again and making sure that they can draw out the really clear links between tackling violence against girls and tackling child sexual abuse. But the proof will be in the pudding.
In a statement, the government told us, "We have been clear throughout that action to tackle child sexual abuse has always been included in the upcoming Violence Against Women and Girls strategy. We will also tackle these horrendous crimes through a distinct and transformative workstream, which will include acting upon the recommendations of both the Casey and Jay reviews."
My message to the government is that if you're going to make child sexual abuse a separate thing, we need it now.
A distinct workstream is welcomed by campaigners, but it doesn't exist yet. And so there is still some scepticism. Victims and charities are clear. Any plan to tackle violence against women and girls must have children at the centre of it. Molly Malone, Sky News.
Still to come here on the UK Tonight, Prince William reveals he misses his late grandmother, Queen Elizabeth, in a touching video from Windsor Castle. And no matter what, Boyzone are back for a final performance in London next year. Prince William has spoken about how much he misses his grandmother, the Queen, and his grandfather, Prince Philip. He was speaking to Eugene Levy for the actor's Apple TV show, The Reluctant Traveller. And Prince William was showing him around Windsor Castle, where the Queen spent much of her later life. We could take a listen to some of their conversation now.
Do you miss your grandmother?
I do, actually, yeah. I do miss my grandmother and my grandfather. Yeah, it's been quite a bit of change. So you do sort of, you think about them not being here anymore.
Yes.
And particularly being in Windsor, for me, Windsor is hers. So she loved it here. She spent most of her time here. Showing you around today is very much a case I'm trying to make sure I'm doing it the way she'd want you to see it. She had her horses here as well, as you can imagine, was a big deal for her. So that's why she loved it here.
Now, let's bring you some pretty incredible pictures from the M6 motorway over the weekend. Bear with me, it is good, I promise. This huge viaduct is going to form part of the HS2 high-speed rail line. Both carriageways were closed, as you may expect, as this 230-metre structure was slid across the motorway. It weighs a whopping 3,400 tonnes. HS2, of course, will be running from London to Birmingham and is expected to open after 2033, but that little bit, because of the time slip moving a little quicker. Good news for 90s music fans. Boyzone are back for one night anyway. The boy band reuniting for their biggest ever show at the Emirates Stadium in London next year. Boyzone inspired to return to the stage after the success of their recent Sky documentary, Boyzone No Matter What. They have been speaking to our arts and entertainment reporter, Bethany Manel.
What we're going into is all lights. It's all bright, it's all positive, it's all beautiful.
I think everything is transparent, you know, and we're the ones in the driving seat. So we made the decision to do this. You know, we're putting all of ourselves into this, but it's our decision, everything, every step of the way, what we're doing on our terms. And it's not going to go further than this show. This is it. It's our way of saying thank you for the love you gave us. Thank you for the 30 years, the reaction to the documentary. And it's nice for us. We didn't get to celebrate the 90s at all. We didn't get to enjoy our success. Everybody else did, but we didn't. And, you know, boo-hoo, we're grand, we're okay with that. It's fine, we had a hell of a time. But I think this show is maybe, this one's for us too, to be able to enjoy and go out on a high.
You've said it's a lot, and when you said it's a lot, I could really see the weight behind your eyes of putting something like this on and making it a reality. Is that heavy?
Yeah, it's a big effort to get this kind of, not only a show together, but the calibre of what we're about to do. And I think it's an unknown, not that it's an unknown territory for us, but you know, it's been 7 years, we didn't expect it. It's not like we were going, you know, every few years, 5 to 7 years, we always had an idea we'll end up seeing each other and sharing a stage together, but there was a definite no. So I think it's more of a surprise and a, you know, where do we look next kind of a moment. But I think we've got, what, 8 months, boys? Yeah. 8 months before the 6th of June, and it's going to be grand. You know? I think it's going to go by so fast more than anything else. You know, what seems like such a journey ahead of us, I think it's going to be a blink of an eye.
Should we worry that Mikey isn't here with you today, and will you be seeing him afterwards?
Yeah, we're going to see Mikey in 20 minutes, and he will be there on the 6th of June.
Fantastic. So
Yes.
he's in the area, and you'll all be meeting.
He will be there. He apologises for not being able to be here today for personal reasons, but we'll see him soon, and he will be there on the night.
And that's for the first time in nearly 7 years.
Yeah, for all of us, yeah.
Got to ask about Louis Walsh. Is he involved with the show in any way?
No, Louis hasn't been involved in Boyzone for a very long time before the documentary even. Well before the documentary, we stopped working with Louis. Yeah, he's very much working with Westlife and those things. We're out on our own.
And will he be seeing a cut of the profits?
No, Louis, listen, Louis, he was the beginning of the band, and he's, certainly not the end of the band at this point, but, I love and respect the man, by all means, but we moved on, early days.
I'm here from Sky News, so can you give us a Sky exclusive? Can we expect a 4th part to your documentary, especially now you've got a whole other chapter to tell?
You know more than we do. You're from Sky. Can you tell us that you're doing a 4th episode?
Let's do the deal now, guys. Once it's on camera,
Yeah, let's do it.
Wouldn't it be lovely? Wouldn't it be lovely to have that, closure on that 4th episode? So, look, you never say never. We haven't agreed anything, hasn't been planned. But yeah, there are cameras around, and it's a decision we've made with Curious, who made the documentary, to document this, because it's a monumental time for us. So we thought it was important to have it on camera.
This is another chapter, right? So it's something worth seeing.
The final chapter.
The final chapter. They all say that, don't they? Good to see Boyzone back for a one-off gig in London next year. Right, still to come here on the programme, we're going to speak to a golfer who beat a 1 in 67 million chance this weekend. We'll tell you how. And why Newcastle have been described as idiots by a German football legend.
I'm David Blevins, one of Sky's US correspondents, based in Washington, D.C.
Connor, what did you say to the president? What did you say?
Had a great meeting with him. He's a great man.
David Blevins from Sky News. Fire chiefs say that they're really stretched to the limit and running out of water. What have you got to say to that? Sky News in the UK. Why do you think the president should intervene on Iran?
I think Iran acquiring a nuclear weapon is an acute threat to the national security of the United States.
Free wherever you get your news.
Go ahead, back white jacket.
Deborah Haynes from Sky News. He called you Daddy earlier.
No, he did it very affectionate. Daddy, you're my daddy. Thank you.
Leicester is on its knees.
They've ripped the soul out of my factory and there's nothing left.
It is eerily quiet.
It's constantly on the brink of capacity.
There's overcrowding. It's not a new thing.
It's rough.
There's nothing to hide. Why aren't international journalists allowed in?
Are you worried about escalation?
Of course I'm worried about escalation, which is why my focus is on de-escalation.
The region, I think, is on edge because they are anticipating a retaliation.
Iran retaliates for the US attacks.
Founding principle of the alliance, that an attack on one is an attack on all.
Could Putin attack another NATO country within 5 years?
Hear that whistle and that crunch. We know that they're coming from the south of the city where there's a column of Russian armoury.
I'm Alex Crawford and I'm Sky's special correspondent based in Istanbul.
Look at that sheet of flames, and that has happened within minutes, and now it's coming from both sides, and it's moving this way.
There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, welcome back. Coming up, I'm going to speak to the golfer who defied the odds this weekend by hitting 2 holes in 1 in the same round. You're intrigued, aren't you, David Garrido?
It's not me, by the way. If it's got a windmill or it's got a clown's mouth, I can putt through it. Otherwise, I'm useless.
Yeah, we're all about the crazy golfer, the pirate ship at Hastings as well. So I'm with you on that one. We'll talk to a rather better golfer than you or I shortly. But we are talking about some rather rude comments from a German football legend about Newcastle United Football Club. Tell me more.
Yes, it's about Nick Woltemade. So Newcastle signed the Germany striker, who's only 23, for £69 million. And he signed him from Stuttgart. And Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, who's the international football legend, he congratulated Stuttgart, the selling club, for finding an idiot who will pay that much money. And we would certainly not have done that. Now, I mean, Newcastle have signed a player who is clearly very talented indeed. He's known as the Volta Messi because he's got great touch, even though he is 2 metres tall. So here's his goal against Arsenal. In the end, they lost that game 2-1. But he's already scored 2 goals in 3 Premier League games. Not the first time that the Bayern have had a pop at Newcastle because they fail with multiple bids to sign the player. So this is part of the reason why Karl-Heinz Rummenigge has said this. Also, Max Eberl, who's a sporting director, he said, is this a strategic transfer or an act of desperation? And Uli Hoeneß, who's the honorary president, said Newcastle's strategy is nothing to do with football. It's like Monopoly these days. So clearly, you know, they're just a little bit of sour grapes there.
Sour grapes, handbags, call it what you want, but what have Newcastle had to say about it?
Well, I mean, Eddie Howe has explained quite calmly that, you know, the comments were irrelevant. They had Callum Wilson and Alexander Isak. They eventually swapped those two for Nick Voltemade and Johan Wisser. It just took an awful long time. Had to wait until basically deadline day to get it sorted. Let's hear now from Eddie Howe.
The market forces dictate transfer fees, not necessarily any one club. We're very pleased to have Nick with us. I think he started very strongly in what's been a difficult period for him because he's thrust straight into action. No training time with us really of any note. And I think he's done really, really well. So we're really pleased to have him with us. And the transfer fee for me is absolutely irrelevant.
Staying connected is vital for business. Sky Business sponsors this report.
Sky Mobile sponsors the transfer window on Sky Sports News.
Right.
Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank was all smiles with his teammates today, but his future still seems somewhat uncertain.
Honest, I'm just sick and tired of this. The number that was put before me was 50% more than our highest paid player at the time.
Jimmy had the feeling, do they really want?
Sky Business sponsors this report.
Now, how's this for a 1 in a 67 million chance? An amateur golfer defying those odds by scoring 2 holes in 1 in the same round. Gavin Bourne was playing in his club championship in Worcestershire on Sunday. He hit a perfect shot on the 3rd hole and then incredibly hit another one on the 15th on his way to being crowned champion. I caught up with Gavin earlier. Well, Gavin, congratulations. I understand that this feat is harder than winning the lottery. I was speaking to the European Ryder Cup captain Luke Donald last night. Having won the Ryder Cup, actually, those golfers have got nothing on you. Even they haven't done this.
Well, I've got to be honest, I do feel like a bit of a fraud after the European guys brought the Ryder Cup home and I've just had 2 lucky shots.
2 lucky shots? Well, lucky. Talk to me about the odds of getting 2 holes in 1 in the same round of golf.
Yeah, I think someone said 67 million to 1. It's a figure that's been bandied around, but I wish someone would have told me before I went out. I might have had £1 on it, but
yeah, that would have done,
not.
Talk to me. I understand it was the 3rd and the 15th holes, and you were actually under a bit of pressure because you were playing in a championship, right?
Yeah, it was the club championship final. Yeah, so we have a match play 36-hole final for our club championships. So, yeah, it was just me against my opponent and the club captain refereeing.
So there were witnesses, because whenever you hear about these incredible sporting feats in the amateur world, you have to make sure they're properly recorded. But as part of an official championship tournament, there are plenty of eyes on it, including, as you said, a referee. Talk me through the first one, because you must have felt pretty good after that one.
Yeah, it was... Yeah, hit my tee shot. It was just going straight down the flag, and as soon as it landed, Tom, my opponent, just said, "That's in, that is." And yeah, we walked up to the green, and Tom himself had hit it to about 4 or 5 feet, and there was just a pitch mark about 3 foot in front of the hole, and yeah, looked in the hole, and there it was.
Yeah, and you probably thought that was your luck done for the day. So, talk to me about the reaction at the 15th.
Yeah, well, the 15th. I've hit my ball. The flag's up on the right-hand side. The hole's uphill, so you can't see the bottom of the hole. So I've hit it up the right, tried to bring it in off the bank, and our club captain had already gone up to watch us tee off. And so he's watched it go in. And all credit to him, he's kept his calm till my opponent had hit his shot, and then all of a sudden he's appeared with his arms aloft, and I just thought he was trying to say, I didn't see it, where did it go? So I was just kind of pointing, yeah, it's up there somewhere. And then he just started taking a picture of the hole with the ball in it.
Incredible. So it's all properly recorded. I mean, like you said, the odds of this happening are just, well, impossible, but you have done it. You're in a very small band of golfers to have done it. So congratulations. Importantly, how did you celebrate? Oh, had a few beers at the club, bought the lads a beer and put a bottle of whiskey behind the bar for the members. And and then we had some, me and my partner had some bubbles when we got back home. Oh, sounds just like Team Europe celebrations to me. You are the stuff of legend now at your local clubhouse. Give the golf club a shout out.
Yeah, Droitwich Golf Club in Worcestershire. Absolutely fantastic course, in fantastic condition. It's just a pleasure to play there.
Oh, well, they're going to love you for that as well. And just before we go, I've got to ask you for a top tip, because you're not a bad golfer. In fact, you're nearly a scratch golfer. You've read that your handicap is 0.4, so you're pretty good. So anyone who wants to get at least one hole in one in their round, what would your top tip be?
Just
whack
keep
it.
Trying, just aim it forward and, just have a swipe at it.
Well, listen, Gary, it's been a pleasure to speak to you. Congratulations once again.
Thank you very much.
That's all from us. Anna Botting is up next with The World. We'll see you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock.